Welcome back, everybody, to the chain reaction build. And so today we're running a build that's not super optimized. It's not super great. There's definitely better ways to pull off what I'm doing today, but the reason I put it up is because even though a different variation of this build does a ton more damage and everything like that, this one is just flat out more fun. And it was so fun indeed that I decided to go ahead and make the build video and spread it, because that's why we're playing this game, right? Is to have fun first and foremost. We're not playing it to do the most damage, unless that's fun to you. But just having the chain reaction explosions is fun as hell to me. So, to jump into everything, we are very squishy. We have very little life, we don't have a whole ton of armor, and Rogue as a class is very squishy. And so you will see certain similarities between this and the Sub-Zero build. Mainly, we're keeping the Victimized Key passive along with this amulet that gives us healing for enemies that get hit by that key passive. And we are also keeping combo points. Aside from that, the build is way different in every way. If you wanted, you could run Puncture. I want to let you know that. The only reason I haven't run Puncture is because I have two other builds that I'm already planning on doing that are using Puncture on top of Sub-Zero using Puncture. I think Puncture is the best auto attack for this character, but I wanted to do something different for this guy, and this one we can benefit greatly from. Invigorating Strikes, melee attack an enemy, dealing a little bit of damage, and increasing energy regeneration by 20% for 3 seconds. That's the big thing, is we blow through energy very fast with this build, and we pick up a passive that helps. The more we use it, we benefit from it, so being able to regenerate it is huge. Enhanced Invigorating Strikes, damaging a crowd-controlled or injured enemy with Invigorating Strikes increases its energy regeneration by 30%, or to 30%. And then Fundamental Invigorating Strikes, hitting an enemy with Invigorating Strikes while you are below 50% energy makes them vulnerable for 3 seconds. That's really just to help us clean up whatever survives our initial attack. We are running Twisting Blades. Impale an enemy with your blades, dealing 1600 damage and making them take 8% increased damage from you while impaled. After 1.5 seconds, the blades return to you, piercing enemies for 2700 damage. We do put combo points on this for 2 reasons. One, it gives us a shitload of movement speed, so we don't really have to take stutter step. And 2, obviously, it boosts our damage ridiculously high. Next up, we have Enhanced Twisting Blades. Twisting Blades deals an additional 30% increased damage when returning. And we pair that with that aspect that I'm sure everybody running Twisting Blades uses, where they orbit around you for a short time. Advanced Twisting Blades. When Twisting Blades returns, your active cooldowns are reduced by 0.10 seconds per enemy they pass through, up to 2 seconds. This helps us with our imbuement cooldown a lot, that way we don't have to take Poison Trap once again. We do take Sturdy. You gain 12% close damage reduction, and mostly to get over here to Siphoning Strikes, you heal for 3% of your maximum life when you critically strike a close enemy. We have a ton of critical strike chance, so having this definitely helps out our survivability, and you need as much healing as you can get, because if you get hit, you're like a fart in the wind. You just get blown away. Now, over here for our agility ability, we take Shadow Step. Become unstoppable and quickly move through the shadows and stab your victim from behind, dealing 1600 damage. Gain 50% increased movement speed for 2 seconds afterwards. This ability is fucking awesome. I mean, as far as fun goes, this is fun. I see everybody running Dash, and I think Dash is a good ability, but there's a certain skill level to use Dash effectively. I was originally using Dash with this build, but I kept dashing either right into the middle of a pack of enemies, which is not a good place to be, or dashing way the fuck away, because you can't really control how far the dash is. At least I don't seem to be able to, so having Shadow Step allows us to go exactly where I want to go consistently. We take Enhanced Shadow Step, increasing or damaging an enemy with Shadow Step increases critical strike chance against them for 8% for 3 seconds. We need as much of this passive critical strike chance as we can get because our base critical strike chance is only like 11%. So as far as right now, because I don't have great gear, that's what we're doing. Enemies damaged by Shadow Step are stunned for 2 seconds. Now, these two are not mandatory. If you wanted, you could switch these for some passives to make you more survivable and what have you, but for right now, until I get better gear, those two are staying. We do take Weapon Mastery once again, and once again I'll mention that daggers would be better or more fun to use because you get that huge damage increase on healthy enemies, which is 30% damage increase to them. Which would just help a lot with one-shotting everything, but I'm running swords because I don't have any daggers, unfortunately. Which 18% increased damage is not bad, so... and honestly, across the board, it's probably better. Now we take Concealment. Concealment disappointed me quite a bit, because I thought you could gather up a whole pack of enemies, cast Concealment, and they would kind of stand there looking for you or something, and give you a chance to attack. That's not how this ability works. Even though it says you vanish from sight, you don't. They still come over and beat your ass. But we use it as a good utility. Vanish from sight, gaining an advanced form of stealth for 4 seconds that will not be removed by taking damage, which is a good thing because stuff does not stop beating your ass. Concealment also makes you unstoppable and grants 30% movement speed and allows you to move freely through enemies for its duration. Using an attack skill during concealment will break concealment. So this helps us with, if we get CC'd, we can pop concealment to get out of it, but we usually use it as a starter for our entire combo. Enhanced Stealth, gain 40 energy when you enter concealment. That's not a huge deal. Not for our combo at least, but right here is the big one. Countering Stealth. The skill that breaks concealment will always be a guaranteed critical strike. That's fucking huge. Exploit. You deal 18% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. That just helps with our one-shot capabilities. Malice. You deal 9% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. That helps with cleaning up the mess afterwards. We do take Shadow Imbuement. Imbue your weapons with Festering Shadow. Your next 2 imbuable skills deal shadow damage and infest enemies for 6 seconds. Infested enemies explode on death, dealing 1300 damage to all surrounding enemies. If the infection expires before the enemy dies, it will deal that damage only to that enemy. Enhanced Shadow Imbuement. You have a 15% increased critical strike chance against injured enemies infected by Shadow Imbuement. And Blended Shadow Imbuement. Shadow Imbuement's primary explosion makes enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. We pair those with Shadow Crash, the chance to stun, and the get 30 energy when shit explodes and dies. Now I do want to mention, originally I was running this build with Poison, and Poison does do way more damage, but it's just not as fun. So I'm running it with Shadow. The poison damage you can get is absolutely absurd, and you can quadruple the amount of damage that your Twisting Blades do. So, and I've even got a variation of the build where you have both. If you really wanted to, you could drop Concealment and put the Poison Imbuement on, because Poison Imbuement is very good against bosses. Shadow Imbuement sucks ass against bosses unless they summon a whole bunch of little minions. So having the poison is huge in those instances. Precision Imbuement. Imbued skills gain 9% increased critical strike chance for obvious reasons. Shadow Clone is going to be our ultimate on this build. Your shadow mimics your actions for 15 seconds. That's a long fucking time. You can pump out so much damage in 15 seconds. The Shadow Clone deals 80% of your damage. Well, if you take the Supreme, he deals 100% of your damage. And then Prime Shadow Clone, you are unstoppable for 5 seconds after casting Shadow Clone. Now, when running the Poison build, you don't need either of these because you have such an insane amount of damage that the 30% or the 20% is not that mandatory, and you can put those into something else. We do run Innervation, up to a 30% chance to gain 8 energy that helps with boss fights. Alchemist Fortune, non-physical damage you deal has a 15% increased lucky hit chance, and we take that for a key passive. Adrenaline Rush for a little bit of movement or energy regeneration. I do wish I could put some points into haste. I really like that passive with the movement speed. But yeah, we take Victimize, like we said at the beginning of the video. Dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has up to a 30% chance to cause an explosion, dealing 23% of the original damage to them and surrounding enemies. And with that, we have created the chain reaction. So our combo is going to be pop our ultimate to get our Shadow Clone, pop Imbuement. We have an aspect that makes it to where our Shadow Clone also casts the Imbuement. We're going to pop Stealth to guarantee a critical strike. Then we're going to use Twisting Blades twice on the enemy on one side of the pack. And then we're going to Shadow Step to the other side of the pack, and those Twisting Blades are going to drag all the way across the screen and start a chain explosion as it goes. And then for anything that survives, of course, we have Victimize. So we have the whirling blades around us. We'll kind of dash back in. We have all this movement speed. We can just run back through the pack, and as those are revolving around us, they are causing Victimize to explode even more. So yeah, altogether, man, this thing is just gnarly. It's not the most damage I've ever seen. It's not the best clear I've ever seen, but goddamn is it fun and satisfying. Take a sip of my coffee. Now, right here, you do want to have this on a two-handed weapon, being your crossbow or your bow. Twisting Blades orbits for a short time after they return to you, dealing 28% of Twisted Blades return damage per hit. Based on the distance the blades returned, the orbit damage increases up to 56% of the return damage. Those numbers would be much lower if you had it on your daggers or anything else. I think you get a 50% bonus on your amulet, but you get the 100% bonus, so we're doing twice the amount of percent having this on our two-handed weapon. Over here we have making an enemy vulnerable has up to a 48% chance to grant 3% increased critical strike chance for 3 seconds, up to 9%. Now that's a wacky way of saying that. Basically, you make an enemy vulnerable, you have a chance to increase your crit chance. A lot of chance. When you break stealth, with an attack, you drop a cluster of exploding stun grenades around your location that deal 943 total physical damage and stun enemies for 0.5 seconds. Mostly just for the stun, and not mandatory, it just helps. It's a little bit of quality of life. To make sure that the first enemy you hit sits still and he's not chasing you, that way you can dash away and have that Twisting Blades kind of crash through the entire horde, because a lot of times without that, you'll see that the enemy, you'll hit him twice with the Twisting Blades, and then he'll run into the middle of the pack chasing you, and your Twisting Blades will miss. Over here you have your Shadow Clone, also mimics your Imbuement applied to your skills. Casting an Imbuement skill grants your active Shadow Clone 12% increased damage for 5 seconds. So right now we're stacking that Shadow Clone damage. We already went over the heal from Victimize, the Twisting Blades. Right here, this one's huge. Shadow Step has an additional charge. Killing an enemy with Shadow Step refunds a charge and increases the damage of Shadow Step by 1% for 2 seconds. I really want to make a Shadow Step build. I think it's a possibility here. I'll be looking into that in the future, but for right now, we just want the additional charge of it. Gain a free Dark Shroud shadow every 3 seconds when standing still. Each Dark Shroud shadow grants 3.8% increased damage reduction. This one's pretty big. A lot of times before we go into a boss fight, I'll stand still for a little bit just to get some Dark Shrouds to get that damage reduction. Now, Grasp of Shadows. This really, really improves every build for Rogue that I have. If you don't have it, and I understand if you don't because it's a super rare glove, I don't even know how I got it. Just focus on either you can get core skill damage, you could put it's just anything that improves your damage. I don't have a good grasp on all of the different aspects or what's great for your gloves. I just know that these gloves are phenomenal. So if you get these, then run these without a doubt. You get +2 ranks to all core skills, making these the best pair of gloves I have for every fucking rogue build. And then you have a chance when using any marksman or cutthroat ability that your shadow clone will mimic your attack. He'll just show up out of nowhere and do the same shit. It's incredible. So just if you have these gloves, absolutely run them. We have dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has up to a 25% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. That's just a little bit of CC. And then becoming injured while crowd control grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. We have a ton of unstoppable, but it doesn't hurt to have one more source of unstoppable. So I think I already went into the combo points. We will go into the Paragon board here just momentarily. As you can see, I'm not super far through it, but I'll kind of mention some key things that you'll want to get. So far I have Prime and Skillful. These, whenever you meet the requirements, will give you 40% increased damage. I don't meet the requirements yet, so I don't have either of those. Right here, you will probably want to put that exploit glyph that gives you, what is it? Makes enemies vulnerable. I don't have it, so I just kind of have a placeholder in right now. And you'll want to work into the, where is it? The Eldritch Bounty node, or board first. You'll want to work your way over to Imbuer. You get that huge imbued skill damage bonus, and you get a bunch of little nodes that give you more. And then Eldritch Bounty, of course, for the 20% resistance and 20% damage for the imbuement element. So, with all of that being said, I guess we'll jump into our fashion. We're running a gray fur-lined hood, purple warlord, gray gauntlets and pants, and purple weathered boots. And all together, I think this comes out looking clean as hell. I was originally running a Predator build that looks like this, and I thought it looked really cool, but after I switched imbuments, it was weird to have the green with all the purple, so I just switched to have a character that more embodied the chain reaction. So, if you enjoyed the build at all, please leave a like and subscribe. Please subscribe. I've been getting a lot of views lately, at least for me, and I'm not getting very many subscribers, which I understand. I don't subscribe to everybody that I watch. I probably should work on that, but it would definitely help if you would like and subscribe. And of course, if you want to see some more wacky builds, after I get through all of these core builds that are like, oh, this is good for damage, or this is good for this, I'm definitely going to be running back through and doing some silly builds. I have a couple ideas for those. I'm going to have some just builds that are just fun to play. And that's going to be huge for whenever we're getting to end game and we're waiting for new content and stuff is starting to get boring. Having some of these wacky builds and some fun builds are going to be what holds us over until that new content drops. So if you want to stick around and see some of those as they drop, then absolutely subscribe. Otherwise, get the hell out of here and have yourself a very fine day.